In any speedrunning game, perseverance is a trait one should have to succeed. This is especially true in one of the fastest growing categories in Minecraft speedrunning called Setseed Glitchless. The category has had a massive boom in recent years that has brought with it big changes in how the category is played. The reason for this massive growth came with the introduction of the 1.16 update that has now given players the ability to use new structures and mechanics to utterly destroy the category. The runners who are able to call themselves top level world record contenders have spent thousands of hours mastering game mechanics to the point of mastery, and the history they've made is a story of perseverance and discipline. This is the world record progression of 1.16 Setseed Glitchless. A lot more of this type of content is coming in the future, so if you don't want to miss out, remember to click the subscribe button. Thanks! When trying to find a seed that would be faster than the old version, seed finders would have to fulfill 3 criteria. The seed would have to have a 12-eye portal, a village and ruin portal at spawn, and a blacksmith or bastion that would contain enough obsidian to transport the player to and from the nether. And on the 17th of September 2020, a seed now known as the Starclay seed was found, named after the person who founded Starclay 666. The time to beat was 2 minutes 56 seconds and 95 milliseconds set by Mark Revenger in the version 1.14.4, and it would take 17 days and multiple runners going for world record attempts before a Polish runner by the name of Tobias Gaming would go on to get this run. Spawning in a tiger village, he collected 5 beds and enough obsidian to enter the nether, before jumping into an underwater ruin portal, entering at a time of 1 minute and 2 seconds. The tricky part about the seed was ahead of him, however, as he needed to perform several parkour jumps over a huge ravine, jumping down a ledge and traversing over lava. At 1 minute 55 seconds, he entered the end. A respectable time, as this was world record pace back then. All he would need was a fast press from the dragon, and he would segment himself as the first runner to beat the previous version. As the dragon finally snapped, he performed well-timed bed explosions that resulted in a successful 5-bed, finishing the time with a 2 minute 56 seconds and 29 milliseconds run, beating the old versions by around 600 milliseconds. Setseed runners will go on to celebrate this as the moment the new version was finally segmented as the fastest Setseed category. An interesting part of Setseed is the fact that there might be a new seed found that's even faster than the old one. This means that no world record is safe, as faster seeds could potentially beat it. And following Tobias' run, this is exactly what happened in the Setseed community. The seed's name was the Dolphin Sister seed, and it was a lot easier to play compared to Starclay's one. The first world record on the seed was done by a runner by the name of Rattles. She would, on the 7th of October 2020, start up a run like any other, where she picked up 5 beds and 16 obsidian from a blacksmith. After a small trek up a hill, she was well on her way to beat Tobias' world record, already 15 seconds ahead when arriving at the ruin portal. Entering the nether, the tricky part was ahead of her, as the seed featured a basalt delta that had quite a few parkour elements that she had to traverse, losing her quite a bit of time. In the next section, she had to use her 5th bed to explode a hole underground that allowed her to build the nether portal. That would take her to the portal room. She would then end up in the portal at 1:53, 2 seconds ahead of Tobias. For astute viewers, you might notice that Rattles only has 4 beds in her inventory when entering the end. As mentioned earlier, one of the requirements for seed finding is that the runner needs to be able to collect 5 beds. However, this all changed following the discovery of the Starclay seed. You see, runners and strat developers had come up with a setup after much trial and error that would consistently kill the dragon using only 4 explosives. This removed the need to pick up a 5th bed to kill the dragon, and would allow Rattles to do this. Finishing with a time of 2 minutes 52 seconds and 170 milliseconds, she was the first person to ever perform a 4-bed in a Minecraft world record. Most people in this scenario would simply stop running, as achieving a world record in any context is a monumental achievement. One day later, however, Rattles would once more beat her own time by 5 seconds, finishing with a time of 2 minutes, 47 seconds and 278 milliseconds. An interesting feature of Minecraft is the existence of sister seeds. This term is used for seeds that have the same nether and end, but with similar but slightly different overworlds. In the set seed category, this means that every seed that is viable for world record might have potentially faster overworlds if looked for. One such rare occurrence happened on the dolphin seed. This seed had 2 viable world record seeds, but with slightly different layouts, and the new one was even faster. The seed featured a different spawn, and combined with better and more linear pathing towards the room portal, saved crucial seconds. This is also where the name Dolphin came into play, as the new sister seed featured a stretch of water that allowed for players to utilize the speed boost they got from dolphins, thus allowing them to enter the nether even faster. Following the developments of set seed, I myself decided to grind for world record attempts, and on the 14th of October 2020, I would go on to get this run. Beating Rattles with a time of 2 minutes, 36 seconds and 300 milliseconds, I had fully shown what the new seed could do, as a world record by 11 seconds is hard to accomplish even on a totally new seed. What followed my world record was a monumental wave of new records, as the category was flooded by new and old runners looking for glory. Starclay666 will claim the record with a time of 2 minutes, 36 seconds and 200 milliseconds using new strats. By changing the location where he would have to place the portal, he could enter the stronghold and skip having to dig down and blow up a bed. This would save him around 3 to 4 seconds by running through the stronghold. On the 18th of October, the record was once more traded as an American runner by the name of Journey got a time of 2 minutes, 34 seconds and 770 milliseconds. The most notable change in the world record came with an optimization in the route in the nether, where, instead of taking the right route across the basalt delta, Journey opted instead to go for the left route, which proved itself to be faster. Starclay, not being happy with being beaten, decided to go on a grind, and within 1 week he would go on to get 2 separate world records, bringing the time down to 2 minutes, 31 seconds and 766 milliseconds. At the time, runners and myself believed that Starclay would be the one to beat the 230 barrier. His track record proved his skill, and it was only a matter of time. But this all changed when Rattles returned to the category. She would once more show her mastery in set seed and finish with a time of 2 minutes, 29 seconds and 800 milliseconds. The run featured a really fast overworld split, in combination with new and faster way to build the exit portal. With the accumulation of all this, she saved precious time. That allowed her to go on to be the first person to ever beat Minecraft in under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. One would think that world records on the seed would slow down following this run. It was arguably very well played, and grinding for world record was an accumulation of thousands of attempts. One person who had a lot to prove would change all this, however, as, despite the big hurdles he was facing, Microvenger would enter and start grinding as well. Microvenger has always been a consistent runner who excelled at anything he set his mind to, and only a few days into the grind he would achieve a time of 2 minutes, 27 seconds and 500 milliseconds. Rattles' response was equally as fierce, as she took it back with a time of 2 minutes, 26 seconds and 869 milliseconds on the 27th of November. Watching these two runners duke it out was honestly astonishing, as only in a few weeks they would shatter world record by world record, and what Microvenger would go on to do next would be cemented into the history books of Setseed as one of the fastest purchases ever. On the 27th of November 2020, he would get a run that entered the Nether 36 seconds thanks to a helpful speed boost from a dolphin. He would then go on to do a very clean Nether section that exited the Nether with a time of 1 minute and 23 seconds. After a small trek to the stronghold, he entered the end at an astonishing 1 minute and 34 seconds, and while this was world record pace back then, what the dragon did next astonished runners even to this day, as the instant perch that he got in this run still can't be explained with our understanding of game knowledge. Finishing with a respectable time of 2 minutes, 21 seconds and 767 milliseconds. Microvenger's run would end the reign of the Dolphin Seed, as an innocent message would appear on the Setseed Discord by a seed finder by the name of Skyrota. He had, in a stroke of genius, decided to post the seed he found before going to bed, and this decision would bring in the new era of the Tiger Seed. This seed will be the first seed that fully utilized the new structures in the 1.16 update, but as a trade-off it was also arguably one of the hardest in Setseed so far. The runner would spawn in a taiga with a village close by, and after looting 4 beds and 9 obsidian from a nearby blacksmith, the runner would trek up a small mountain where a ruin portal was positioned. By strategically placing cobblestone and obsidian, you could finish it and enter with a time of around mid-40. This was slower than the previous seed, but the Nether made up for it majorly. The Nether section in the seed is arguably one of the coolest in Setseed, as it featured a drop that would kill the player if they didn't position themselves correctly. You would then have to loot a bastion that would provide you with 8 obsidian, just enough for the exit portal and for the 1 cycle. After a bit of nether parkouring, the runner would dig a hole in the ground and place the exit portal underneath a warp tree. By standing in a correct location, you would then teleport in front of the end portal. Feinberg, the runner you see here, was the first person to ever achieve a world record on the seed, as he entered the end at a time of 1:30. After a quick perch, he clutched up the 4-bed and got a time of 2 minutes, 21 seconds and 450 milliseconds. This world record would be beaten in only 3 hours, as the British runner called Ontricus beat Feinberg by around 2 seconds. Ontricus will later go on to beat that time again 3 days later on the 18th of February 2021, clocking in with a time of 2 minutes, 14 seconds and 900 milliseconds. Ontricus' reign over the early Tiger Seed days was a monumental sweep, as he alone brought the time down from a 2:21 to a 2:14, and the mechanical skill that he built up over thousands of attempts was amazing to watch. In speedrunning, time is your friend and enemy. You will always lose or gain time depending on your performance, and mastering in-game mechanics will always be shown in a reduction in time. It is for that reason runners use time up to the millisecond in Setseed to measure differences between runs. However, while this works in theory, a particular scenario might happen once time is used to measure games. In Setseed, one would normally use in-game time, which can be described as time would start on first input and all loads and pauses will be removed from the final time. With these criteria, one can imagine that measuring time at a top level is highly important, as accurately timing runs down to the millisecond is vital for proof standards. That was until 2 runners, half a month apart, would go on to set 2 separate world records in an unusual way. This is Rayo and Magnetic Maybe, 2 top level runners who had steadily been climbing the Setseed ladder for months. Rayo's PB at the time was a high 218 and Magnetic's was a low 221. Magnetic would gain an early lead as he navigated the overworld better than Rayo, but Rayo was not giving up. Both would masterfully loot the bastion and make their way across the netherways, quickly approaching their exit portal location. Magnetic would unfortunately mess up slightly, allowing Rayo to quickly catch up. As both were building their exit portal, Rayo was 3 to 4 seconds behind Magnetic as they prepared themselves for the last stretch of the run. In the end, it was all about the one cycle. The goal of any world record is to attain a fast perch, which has a 1 in 13 chance of happening. As both runners were setting up for the one cycle, Rayo's dragon would snap first. The world record would clearly be his, as all he would need to do is clutch up the full bed. But, as fate would have it, Magnetic Maybe's dragon would be lower, and what happened next is nothing short of incredible. Magnetic Maybe and Rayo would go on to make history by tying their world records with a final time of 2 minutes, 10 seconds and 467 milliseconds. These monumental runs shocked everyone, as no one could imagine that 2 runs half a month apart would tie down to the millisecond. The time that followed the tie would be relatively quiet, as Magnetic would go on to set not 1, not 2, but 3 separate world records. As on April the 13th, 2021, he would go on to achieve the first sub 2:10 run in the set seed category, finishing with a time of 2 minutes, 9 seconds and 967 milliseconds. Not feeling satisfied or done with the seed, Magnetic would continue the grind for another 2 months. And in June, he would go on to set 2 world records, finishing with a time of 2 minutes and 8 seconds and 450 milliseconds. The category was clearly getting optimized, as Magnetic was slowly but surely perfecting and mastering his craft. During this time, you could clearly see that the experiences and skill that he built was setting him apart from every other runner. On the 16th of June, Starclay would come up with an ingenious idea. You see, with the release of the 1.17 update, he quickly gathered that villages would change slightly to accommodate for the new differences in terrain generation. With this info, another runner and seed finder named Sheep would remember a seed she posted in the SetSeed Discord back in October of 2020. When checking the spawn, they now realized that the village that originally only had 1 blacksmith with 15 obsidian in it now had 2 blacksmiths, and the combined amount of obsidian in both blacksmiths were 26. The next issue was rotting the seed, as the biggest hurdle was finding out how to actually enter the nether. Runners quickly realized that there were 2 gravel patches located close to the village, one behind the spawn area and another by the second blacksmith. This is where the name Gravel Seed came into play, as the seed now became known as the tedious grind of getting flint, which only had a 1 in 10 chance of happening every time you broke a gravel block. The first world record on the seed would happen 3 days after its rediscovery. Rayo would return to the category after a small hiatus and begin his domination of the Gravel Seed. In the run, Rayo would enter the nether in under 40 seconds by getting flint first try. And while the first part of his nether wasn't optimal, he still clutched up the later parts and will go on to enter the end at a time of 1 minute and 14 seconds. After a really fast perch, Rayo will go on to obtain the first world record of the Gravel Seed with a time of 2 minutes and 6 seconds. One of the biggest aspects of the Gravel Seed was the sheer amount of brute forcing that had to be done to enter the Nether. 90% of runs would automatically end because the gravel did not drop flint, and mining the gravel more than once in a run was also a time loss that runners did not want to go for. This meant that only the most persistent runners would continue to go for world record attempts, and that one runner was Rayo, who after getting his first world record would not stop grinding. He will continue his streak of world records with a time of 2 minutes, 4 seconds and 33 milliseconds. And then only 2 days later, he would get a time of 2 minutes, 1 second and 833 milliseconds. Rayo was on an insane streak, and his sheer persistence of brute forcing seeds until he got what he wanted truly showed what the mentality of a top runner should be, because in set seed, being consistent in mechanical skills isn't everything. You also have to be prepared to play at your best attempt after attempt, even when the odds are against you. And each world record represented countless hours of routing, running and working against the odds, and through dedication from the speedrunners and the setseed community, they would slowly achieve this, because the goal was always to beat Minecraft as fast as humanly possible. And on the 5th of June 2021, Rayo would finally achieve one of the greatest world records in Minecraft history. Rayo had done it. He was the first person ever beat Minecraft in under 2 minutes, finishing with a time of 1 minute, 58 seconds and 383 milliseconds. This meant that the final minute barrier was reached, and this run now stands as a milestone for what runners should strive for, as the runner who achieved it fully encapsulates what it means to be a set-seed runner. Following this historical milestone, Rayo was not done. He continued grinding as he still saw huge potential in the Gravel Seed, and only after a short while he achieved a time of 1 minute, 56 seconds and 450 milliseconds, lowering his own world record by 2 seconds. No other runner was able to beat this time, as his mechanical skill, persistence and determination was league above its time. His reign was firmly segmented, and it would take a grand total of 6 months before a familiar runner would finally beat Rayo. Magnetic had returned after a break from Setseed, and on the 16th of January 2022, he would go on a run that finally broke Rayo's reign. His mechanical skill had clearly not deteriorated, as he quickly built his portal to enter the Nether. Navigating through the Nether was also a breeze, as he fully utilized the well-timed jumps to minimize health loss while also not losing time. Entering the end at a comfortable 1 minute and 2 seconds, he was well on his way to beat Rayo's run, and all he would need was a quick perch. And seeing the dragon finally begin to perch, Magnetic knew that this was all or nothing. Finishing with a time of 1 minute, 55 seconds and 500 milliseconds, Magnetic managed to beat Rayo, ending his reign once and for all. Feeling challenged, Rayo would not let this sit for long. And after a month of grinding, he would once more reclaim his throne. As Rayo reclaimed his throne, a few new runners who had slowly but surely improved their times would emerge from the leaderboards. The first runner was Hanabi, who would go on to challenge Rayo's time, as he was an incredibly skilled mechanical player who excelled in hotkeying and rapid block placements. And on the 9th of March 2022, he would go on to beat Rayo with a time of 1 minute, 55 seconds and 303 milliseconds. The next world record contender in the 1.16 set seed category was a person by the name of Empire Kills. Empire had already taken the 1.14 world record with a time of 2 minutes and 38 seconds, and he was ready to claim the 1.16 category of set seed as well, which he would do with a time of 1 minute, 55 seconds and 196 milliseconds. Unfortunately, these two runners could not keep Rayo away, as his goal had always been perfection and optimizing the category, and this time would be no different. Breaking the 155 barrier, he would finally set a time of 1 minute, 53 seconds and 252 milliseconds. This world record will also stand as the final world record that was achieved on the gravel seed to this date. This is because a new seed would finally be discovered, and the one who found it was named EXER Solver. The seed featured a simple plains village that had 2 blacksmiths and 1 room portal in it. By entering through the room portal, the runner would have enough obsidian left to exit the nether again. You would then spawn in a warp forest where you had to run through a small gap and do a few jumps through a basalt delta. The next challenging part of the seed came with a huge drop that would not be possible to skip. The solution to this, however, came with the ingenious idea of jumping into a vine to negate fall damage. This is also why the seed is named the Vine Seed. After bridging over lava, one had to build a nether portal in an exact location that would allow you to spawn next to the portal. A peculiar feature of the seed is that the fastest perch possible one could have is a diagonal one. This forced runners to learn new setups for diagonal perches. And the first world record on the seed will be done by none other than Rayo. The amazing thing about this new seed is that runners no longer have to reset 9 out of 10 attempts due to not getting flint. This meant that set seed now went back to being all about mechanical skill again, which the community was obviously very happy about. Rayo's world record of 152 would not stand for long, as Magnetic was hard on the grind. And not even choking a run that might have been world record would stop him. And, after only a week of grinding, he would finally beat Rayo again.
What? There's no way! That was the last What?
Feeling very happy about his accomplishment, Magnetic would celebrate in the classic Magnetic fashion, by getting another world record. He would, on the 26th of June 2022, beat Minecraft faster than any other person ever has, finishing with a final time of 1 minute, 49 seconds and 435 milliseconds. And that is where the world record is today. Through the contributions of speedrunners, community members, strat developers, seed finders and more, the 1.16 set seed category has been optimized to a point where even the milliseconds matter, and where pushing the limit of the game is a goal every top runner strives for. Because in the most popular speedrunning game ever, one has to wonder what the next world record will be.